What up? Welcome into episode 4 of the Save Saturdays podcast. I'm Ethan, partner in crime, Will Reason across from me.
What's up?
Got a beautiful day in Lincoln here today. We're recording on a beautiful Thursday. How you doing today, Will?
Pretty good.
Yeah, even though you forgot that quiz.
I did. I forgot a quiz. I thought today was Wednesday. This week it's just been
It's been something else.
It's been something else. What about your day? How's you been? Do you forget anything today, or forget to do something?
I did forget to do something today, but I did make it up, so we're all good. Old Professor Creighton, she's gonna let me make it up.
Don't worry, guys. We're both messes. We're just all over the place.
Not when it comes to recording a podcast, though.
We're on top of that.
That's A1.
No matter how much stuff we have to do, we will always get you a podcast every week.
And
from here on out,
we got to start off the show with a little bit of an announcement, I guess. But I don't know if you guys are following us on social media. You should be, but if you're not, we're recording this for the first time ever in the Save Saturdays studio in Lincoln, Nebraska. We're really excited about that. And we also have another announcement to make. We're going to be taking the beginning of our show, where we rate restaurants, and we're going to be giving it its own show. So that won't be a part of the sports show anymore. We're going to be calling that Takeout Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
Yeah, it'll be airing on Tuesday.
You didn't get that.
So it's also going to be a video show. So you're going to want to head on over to our YouTube channel and give us a follow. Save Saturdays on YouTube, and you'll be able to watch that show. But for our final restaurant ranking during the Save Saturdays Sports Podcast, we've got a restaurant that we started talking about last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Almost started rating that restaurant instead of Pizza Hut. But we got Buffalo Wild Wings today.
We promised you guys that we'd bring Buffalo Wild Wings the next episode, so here you go.
We got it.
Ethan, you want to start it off this time?
Not really.
Okay, I got it. Well, Buffalo Wild Wings. I love Buffalo Wild Wings. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
I like all sorts of wings. There's a lot of people that are just like religious about their wings. It's either bone in or boneless, and if you're one or the other, you're just like not a human. I like both. I favor the boneless. It's not as messy. I think you get a little more meat on there.
Okay. On this topic, boneless, those are just chicken nuggets, right?
Oh yeah, they're basically just chicken nuggets.
They're adult nugs.
They're adult nugs.
All right, just so we're.
Well, what's wrong with nugs?
Nothing. I'm a boneless guy.
Yeah, I like it.
Actually, in fact, I refuse to eat bone-in wings just because they're so messy and you don't get any satisfaction from it.
I like bone-in. It just depends what the environment is. Like if I just don't want to get messy, then I won't. But if I'm just like no care in the world, just hammer some bone-in wings. It's also hard to get ranch in boneless wings. Much easier to dip the ranch than in bone-in.
Well, if you have boneless, you can stick the fork in it and dunk it in the ranch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I like dunking. I'm a dunker.
All right. Let's get your rating.
All right. Before I say this, I will say I am, as I just said, I would prefer boneless. But either way, I'm an Asian zing guy. I always get Asian zing. I like all the barbecue flavors, but I just always get Asian zing. With that being said, I'm going to start off with cleanliness. It's a 16. I've been to about 4 or 5 different Buffalo Wild Wings in my life, and they all seem about the same. They're pretty clean. Every once in a while, if there's like a big game day, the day after a big game day or something, it'll be a little bit messy, but I mean that's kind of expected. Taste is a 20. I mean, do I need to explain myself there? I mean, just
I do. That's a perfect rating. I do want an explanation on taste.
I mean, the Asian zing. Have you had an Asian zing wing? It's the greatest wing ever.
I've not.
The sauce is. I can put that sauce on anything, and I do. We have some in the cupboard, and I put it on literally everything.
So is the sauce good or is the chicken good?
I think the chicken's quality. I mean, have you had a wing?
Because this is a perfect.
There are a lot of places where the meat quality is just terrible.
If we're just rating on taste, this is a 20 out of 20. You're giving them goat status on taste.
I'm giving those guys goat status on taste.
You said yesterday that goat status was unachievable.
But for the restaurant as a whole. For the restaurant as a whole is what I was saying. But this is just a subcategory.
Okay, so because they are a chicken restaurant and they're 20 out of 20 in taste.
I'm-
Does that mean their chicken is as good or better than Cane's?
It's a different kind of chicken.
Is
'Cause
it?
these are wings.
They're both fried.
Those are fingers.
All right, fine.
So yeah, I think it's a different discussion there.
All right.
Anyway, and the sauce does a lot for me. But when I compare, my 20 comes out when I compare other wings that I've had, it's the best wing I've had. I have not had better bone-in or boneless wings.
Fair. It's fair.
Customer service, I gave it a 17. I've never had a horrible situation at a B-Dubs. The worst problem, and we both had this problem. We got takeout. I think it was like a Monday Night Football or something in the Lincoln, the downtown B-Dubs, and they microwaved our wings, and it just tasted horrible. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, that was a bad. I'm gonna blame that on customer service.
Mm-hmm.
So,
otherwise,
I mean, I still gave him a 17 despite that one time. But every other time I go to a B-Dubs, everyone's pretty nice. It's cool. Cost, I give it a 14. Usually, the reason they got a 14, I wanted to give them a 10 because it's kind of expensive to go to B-Dubs. I mean, we don't go every week because we're broke. But buy one get one brought it up 4 points because that makes it very affordable, and I appreciate that. Intangibles, I gave it a 20 just because of the range of sauces they have and the variety on the menu. It's still pretty solid. You got a lot of solid appetizers. No matter what sauce you go with, they're usually pretty good. I stick to one, but usually I've tried others and they're usually pretty good too.
So we got a superstar restaurant here.
We'll see we'll see my overall score. But also in the tangibles, right, the reason they got a 20 is because if you're a sports fan, it's the best place to be.
I thought it was Pizza Hut.
That was if you were eating at home. But if you're going out to eat, so if you want to go to a game with 10 other people and you want to go and be in an environment with other sports fans, I mean, where else would you want to be than B-Dubs? You got beer, you got wings, you got to have burgers if you want. Like you mentioned earlier, what was the last episode? You mentioned a wrap. You could have a wrap, and you got 1 billion TVs. I mean, there's no better place to be on a game day if you want to go out somewhere to do it. Overall score, I gave an 87. Which I don't know if we adjusted the rating score.
Did you adjust the rating score?
In my head I did. When I did my score, I put them as a superstar. That's why I intend to put them as a superstar.
Okay, because I got you out at like a 92. So that's why I said superstar earlier. And I might have done my math wrong in my head, but I thought I had you pegged at a...
That's an 87.
All right. That's an all-star on my rankings list here. What?
But that was the unadjusted, the old one.
All right. So what's the new one?
New one, it's a superstar.
All right.
Because we shifted them all, so there's no GOAT status. Because 100 is a perfect score for a GOAT status, but in my opinion, over 5 categories, there's no such thing as a restaurant having 100. I mean, that literally means they do nothing wrong and everything's perfect.
What are the new categories then?
So we go 99 to 90 will be the GOAT status.
Oh, okay.
We'll put them. It means they're in the GOAT conversation, and then you got your 89 to 80 is your superstar, and then it just shifts down from there.
So what's undraftable?
Be what, 50 and below still.
Oh, so you're
40 and below.
You're making the starter category smaller, or is it still?
It's all still the same. It's just erasing the GOAT status. The perfect score.
Making it. You're just changing GOAT status to being.
I'm just downshifting
above
all
a 90.
Categories.
Okay. So what?
So that would make the 80s range would be superstar.
So we got 99 to 90 GOAT, 89 to 80 superstar, 79 to 60 is starter, 59 to 50 is scout team, and 49 to 0 is undraftable.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I think that's fair because I just don't think you can have a perfect score at a restaurant. Like that's impossible.
But is being 10 points below perfect really a GOAT, or is that just?
Well, I mean, it's a range.
I feel like GOAT status should end at 95.
Well, I mean, if you want to put this to athletes in this, Michael Jordan's like a 99, LeBron's a 93, but yeah, we're still putting him in the GOAT status. I think it means they're in contention. They're in the same conversation.
It's not good.
The higher
It's
score,
not GOAT status. It's GOAT discussion.
we'll say GOAT discussion because the higher score obviously is better. Like 95 is better than 94, but they're both in the GOAT discussion. But like if you're in the 80s, you don't deserve to be in the discussion with the 90s.
All right, I got you. So you got him at a superstar at an 87.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a record high score.
I know it is for me. I don't know about you.
I'm not sure for me.
What have we done? We've done McDonald's,
Pizza Hut.
and then what was the first one?
I think McDonald's was the first one. Check.
I think you gave McDonald's was your highest score. So.
All right. Well, you check real quick. See if that was higher than an 87, and I'll give my scores.
Okay.
So, I know a different beat ups, I suppose, because for cleanliness, I gave him an 8. You know, sometimes you sit down, table's a little sticky. You're waiting for your wings at the door, at the lobby, and there's a little bit of dirt around. So I gave him an 8. Taste 17. I think the wings are good. The wings are good. They're not my favorite wings of all time, but the sauce is solid. The wings are good. Since they've changed them, there's a lot more meat on them. I'd say about 3 years ago, you would have a couple that were like
That's true.
Just like fried skin with sauce on it. Now you got a pretty meaty wing.
Mm-hmm.
Customer service, I got an 8, especially here at the one in Lincoln. It's almost as if everybody at B-Dubs hates their job, so I'm going to give them an 8. And there was that one time where we ordered takeout earlier this summer, and they didn't give me the right wings, and then they were pretty rude to me when I went in and asked for the proper wings.
And they were microwaved.
Well, that was a different time, yeah.
Wow.
So I've had 2 bad experiences. As we know, the one in Lincoln's basically the worst beat-ups of all time. I have had good beat-ups experiences, just not recently.
You guys, if you want the best beat-up experience,
Grand Island, Nebraska.
Grand Island, Nebraska is the best beat-up experience you'll get. You didn't believe me, and then you went there, and he was like, yeah, you're totally right.
890 Allen Drive, Grand Island, Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And then for costs, I'm going an 8. You know, you got that buy one, get one free deal, but you're still dropping like $20 for 20 wings.
It's true. I was probably a little generous with my scores just because I do love beat-ups.
I mean, I love beat-ups.
I probably bumped them a little too high.
I love beat-ups, but I try to remove
you're giving them an honest score.
I'm trying to remove myself from the situation, you know?
Yeah.
Which is obviously why we're never going to rank Canes, because we can't remove ourselves from that situation. That's a 101.
It's too much bias.
It's a 101 out of 100. And then for intangibles, you know, you got all those TVs. You got all that going on. I gave him a 19. That brings me out to a 60.
60.
So that's fringe starter. Like, we're looking to replace them in the draft. Bump them down to scout team.
Well, we're always trying to improve.
Yes. Yeah, I suppose. But
they made the starting lineup. I think
I'm going starter with them.
I must love wings more than you do.
No one loves wings more than me, but I can still be critical.
You're just an honest critic.
You have a child's palate when it comes to wings.
I respect that.
I'm like a wing sommelier.
I just go try to find the biggest piece of meat and the hottest sauce that'll burn my mouth, and that I'm happy with it. I don't even taste it.
All right. So we got our scores 87-60, starter and superstar. Clearly, I have a better judgment of that. Let us know what you guys think of B-Dubs in the comments section on Instagram. Tweet at us, DM us, twitter.com, Instagram, Safe Saturdays.
If you want to tell us your favorite sauce. Bone in? Are you bone in or boneless? Let us know.
The best comments and DMs will be featured in future podcasts.
Maybe a future award. Maybe a giveaway of some sort. Who knows?
Moving on, we got the NBA playoffs. They've hit a snag recently. They are proceeding with play. Let's talk about how we think the first round's going prior to the boycott. How are they going? What's working? What's not working? Well, what have you noticed that's working well?
I took a lot of note in the Lakers. I think they're going to get out of the series pretty unscathed. now that Lillard's hurt a little bit. But I thought there was a lot of concern in this series. A lot of things were exposed, like their lack of shooting. And when LeBron and AD are both on, they are very, very good, but it usually is not on. It seems to be they're not on the same page a lot. Usually it's one day it's LeBron's night, one day it's AD's night. One day LeBron is putting up 35, next day he has like 15 assists. And so I don't think they know what their role is yet, how to play with the team, because one day LeBron's scoring, one day he's facilitating. I think they need to figure out how to win games. I mean, it's nice to be able to see that they can win games multiple ways. But once they get up against Kawhi, Pandemic P, as he is now known, Paul George, I think they're going to be able to expose them in ways that the Blazers have not been able to, just because of their lack of talent and roster. And so I think they have a lot of stuff to figure out. What do you think about?
Well, yeah, let's talk about both the Lakers and the Bucks, both number one seeds in their respective conferences. And you look at the playoff tree, and it seems like those teams are struggling the most. I kind of had a feeling as a Bucks fan going in, the Bucks were going to struggle right out of the gates, stumble with that game one against the Magic. You look at the games in the bubble coming into the playoffs, and the Bucks were dropping games they shouldn't have been dropping. They're losing to the Nets. They're losing to teams that aren't even making the playoffs. And you look at your phone, you get that notification, you're watching the game, you're like, what's going on? It's like they're not taking the game seriously. And by all accounts, they weren't really dialing it up for those games because they already had the first seed locked up. And so it's hard to flip that switch right away. And I think that loss to the Magic in game one was a wake-up call the Bucks needed. If they had been able to sleepwalk through the first round, they probably would have been hit by a truck with the Miami Heat, who beat them in the season series in the regular season. So that Miami matchup in the second potential Miami matchup, because the Bucks haven't locked down the series yet, that definitely scares me as a Bucks fan. And the Lakers, I just feel like Damian Lillard has the ability to just get red hot and take over a game, and there's not anything the other team can do about it. And he's done that in a couple of games, and the Trailblazers have won. But I agree. I think the Lakers just didn't have it in those games, but they're definitely the superior team. As for the Clippers, also a top seed, struggling. They're playing a significantly worse team than the Trailblazers, I'd say, especially with Porzingis out. I think the Mavs are a lot worse than the Blazers, and so I think the Clippers should be concerned. There's reason to be concerned in LA over that team.
Yeah, they have struggled with the Mavs, but like you said with Dame, his ability to get hot and teams can't really do much about it. I think you can say the same thing about Luka in this series. He's kind of just gone off the wall, and I think he's right now, based on a series, I think Luka's the best player in basketball right now.
But when you have,
he's single-handedly pulling the Mavericks. Now they are worse than the Trailblazers, so it is concerning that they are struggling so bad. But if you look at Kawhi's history in the playoffs, like the Raptors, his teams have struggled. They have not just swept like you expect dominant teams to do.
Well, that's my thing with the Clippers is they have Kawhi Leonard. He's supposed to be one of the top 3 defenders in the NBA, perennial DPOI player every year. That's the kind of guy that you expect every night in, night out. You can stick on a Luka Doncic, a Dame Lillard, and they'll stop him. So that's cause for concern. Are they still on autopilot? Are they still not taking this seriously? Because it's the playoffs now. You're not gonna be able to do that in round 2.
I think it's gonna sound really similar to what I say about the Lakers and Clippers, but I think the Clippers and the Bucks are in the same scenario where they're just not performing right in the first 2 rounds, in the first round. But once they get deeper in the playoffs, if they do get out of their slump, they'll kick it up, and Kawhi will pick it up, and especially Paul George. I mean, he has not performed well in the series. His last game, I think he scored 35. So that was old Paul George, vintage playoff P that we're used to seeing. And so I think once we get to the primetime big games and a little in the playoffs, I think, and probably the Lakers too. I mean, maybe it's the same case there. I'm just hard on the Lakers because I'm not a LeBron fan, but it's just these top seeds are just kind of trying to get by in the first round without having to show or do too much. And maybe that's just what we're seeing. And they're just not quite in the playoff mood yet. And they will be once they get to later in the rounds. So,
well, that's another thing I wanted to bring up about the Clippers. Paul George, he's supposed to be your number 2 guy. He's in some people's eyes coming into this season, he was 1B. You know, he got MVP votes last year.
Oh yeah,
that's
the season.
That's a guy who was touted as
and that was with Russell Westbrook on his team.
Yep, that's a guy who is
that's impressive,
respected as like a top 5 player in the NBA, and to go out and perform the way he has in the playoffs, it's concerning. He's looked like Chris Middleton out there, not Paul George.
You know,
I'm not a fan of Chris Middleton. I'm not gonna go after this man today. That's a whole nother thing. I need to wait till the Bucks get beat in the second round.
Wait till he actually loses the series.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
He's definitely trending that direction. Moving on, you know, we're concerned about the Clippers. Another team that needs to be concerned, the Philadelphia 76ers. They fired coach Brett Brown after a first-round sweep against the Celtics. That was expected to be one of the more competitive series.
It always is. The Celtics 76ers series, no matter how bad one team is, it's always just 6 or 7 games, and it's rough, it's tough.
And
that just wasn't the case this year.
That was a 3-6 matchup or 4-5.
Yeah, 3-6.
3-6. You know, that's not the most evenly matched teams, but they're supposed to be neck and neck with each other. There's not supposed to be much separating those two teams. And to go out there and be non-competitive in the first 2 games and then lose the next 2 games, albeit more competitive, that's concerning. And I don't think Brett Brown was the problem in Philadelphia. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are the problem. Al Horford's max contract is the problem. Brett Brown, let's talk about a coach who's won 62% of the games since Ben Simmons has played a regular or a virtually full season. He's got 3 years with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid at full health, and he has led them to 50-plus wins each season. You look at his career win-loss record, and he's below 500, but that's because he spent 4 years with a G League team in Philadelphia. And then he finally gets some help, and they fire him? No. That's ridiculous. What do you think of Brett Brown?
We had a long discussion about this earlier today. I agree with you. I don't think Brett Brown was the whole problem. I think he had a part to play in it. But I think the Sixers, they have the pieces to be successful, and we've seen it in the past years. I mean, this is a very similar team to what they had. I think Simmons and Embiid have not been great together. The front office has not done the 76ers any favors. I think the Al Horford contract is absolutely horrible. Making up to $97 million guaranteed for 10 points, 5-6 rebounds a game. I mean, that's nothing. Tobias Harris, I think he's way overrated, way overpaid. Not the shooter that they brought him in to be. Especially when you have Ben Simmons, who cannot shoot a 3-pointer save his life. Embiid cannot shoot a 3-pointer save his life. They need people around them to shoot threes, and it's quite obvious the front office did not give them any help in that regard. And you need, like you said earlier, you need threes to be able to win in this league, and they did not get the help. So why fire Brett Brown thinking that's the answer? When it's obviously a front office issue. It was Elton Brand, the GM of the Sixers. He should be
he should be the one looking for a job today, not Brett Brown.
I think they just took Brett Brown is just the scapegoat. I think they just because after you have had success the past 3 years after this rebuilding process, and then you get swept in 4 games by your division rival that is always competitive. Usually people are looking for someone to blame and someone to fire right after that because it was a pathetic performance against the Celtics.
Then fire Elton Brand.
But I think Brett Brown is probably not the option he was going to bring them success and a high winning percentage, but I don't think he was going to bring a title. If they do the right things in the offseason, I think they can get better from the Brett Brown firing. Like I mentioned earlier, and this is going to bleed into our next topic. And I mentioned you, and we talked about this as well.
We'll just rip the Band-Aid off.
Brett Brown is a great coach, but when they fired him, if they do go and pursue Greg Popovich, then I would think it's a good move. I would look back and be like, yeah, that was a great move. Now, I don't know. We'll have to see who they hire. I think Greg Popovich would be.
Early reports are they're pursuing Ty Lue.
Well, yeah. Then in that case, I would not like the firing. I would not agree with it. I would have stuck with Brett Brown.
But let's say
in my perfect world, if I were the 76ers, I would go get Greg Popovich. And I'm just quickly explain why. Just because Ben Simmons, guy cannot shoot threes, gets the basket, he plays defense. He can do everything for you but shoot. Joel Embiid, a lot of injuries, but he is a star center in this league. And Greg Popovich has had a lot of history with star centers and power forwards and making that work. And he's had a lot of history with guards that cannot shoot. I've never seen a Spur other than like Manu Ginobili who was just a lights out shooter. For the most part, he's got a lot of guys like Tony Parker that facilitate on the offensive side like Ben Simmons does. And I think Ben Simmons brings more to the table than what a Tony Parker would. So I think of all the coaches available for the 76ers, based on the 76ers roster now, I think Popovich can do more with this roster than anyone else can, just because of his history. And they do need to go get more shooters in the offseason. That needs to happen for them to be successful.
Okay.
They have none right now.
But one of the best things about the Sixers, one of the most valuable things, is if they're not going to trade their stars, if they're not going to trade Toby, if they're not going to trade Ben or Joel Embiid, those are all young guys. Those are all guys in their 20s, mid-20s. I think Tobias Harris is probably the oldest one in that group.
28.
Yeah, he's still got 3 to 4 years left in his prime. And Greg Popovich might win one title with the Sixers and leave, retire. I don't think, but I don't think that would be a smart move for the Sixers. You want a guy who's going to come in and he's going to be there for all those guys' entire career. The one coach that the Sixers could hire that I would find the Brett Brown firing to be okay is Kenny Atkinson. Former Brooklyn Nets coach, shows he can take talent of lesser ability and lead them to success in the playoffs. That's a guy that I would like to see on the Sixers bench to justify the Brett Brown firing.
But I mean, if you're after
Pop's too old.
But when you look at the 76ers history since the Allen Iverson days, they've been horrible. And going into the rebuilding process they had a few years ago, they were horrible. And now they've had 3 to 4 years of playoff contention. I think the people in Philadelphia would be perfectly fine if Pop came and say, coach for 3 years. If in 3 years he won them one title and then retired and they had to rebuild all again, I would think the people of Philadelphia, considering their past failures, would be just very happy to have that one title. Because, I mean, right now, it's the age of the dynasties, but they're not set up to be like that, and they won't be.
They are set up to be a dynasty. They have stars. They have the star power to be a dynasty. They just don't have the stars with the correct surrounding talent. And what I'm saying is Brett Brown, a disciple of Popovich, he came from the Popovich coaching tree. They know that system doesn't work. Did Brett Brown try everything that Popovich probably knows? No. Will Pop figure it out? Will he unlock it? I don't know. But wouldn't you rather have a guy that you can bring in on a 5-year contract and know that the only way he doesn't fulfill that contract is if you fire him? Or would you rather bring in a guy on a 5-year contract in a pop and know that there's a possibility he could leave after a year?
I don't think in a league where we are in a dynasty-driven league like we have, in a league where the Warriors about to come back with Clay and Steph next year and the second overall pick, LeBron James in LA, the Celtics building a young roster in Boston, I think it wouldn't be smart to build a team assuming you're going to have a dynasty. I think you should build a solid team with a solid coach and try to win the first one before you even think about winning the second and third and fourth. I think you got to worry about winning the first one, and you got to go from there. And if it means bringing in a new coach, well, at least you won one title. I mean, I think they need to be happy with winning one title. I wouldn't build your franchise around assuming you're going to have a dynasty. And if you're going to do that, you got to do it in the draft. And if you're going to, at this point, the 76ers are too late for that. They got to just rebuild again. Because every dynasty that we've seen so far, I mean, they've done it that way. Minus the Miami Heat. Be quiet, crowd.
That's what I think of that. That's a garbage take. I don't see.
I mean,
I don't see how you find Popovich to be the guy when a more recent contender for Coach of the Year, Kenny Atkinson, is available. You know what? We've talked too long on this topic.
We can just talk about this all day if we wanted to.
We don't need to.
We could.
It's really okay. Catch us coming up with our reactions to the Big Ten and the Pac-12 canceling their season next. Hey, Save Saturdays listeners. It's Ethan Petrick with SaveSaturdays.com. If you have listened to the show, you know Will and I love food almost as much as we love sports. So much so, we're making a show about it. Takeout Tuesday will air every Tuesday exclusively on the Save Saturdays YouTube channel. This new show will feature Will and I doing our patent Save Saturdays restaurant ratings while enjoying a meal from that restaurant. Remember to tune in next Tuesday, and as always, Save Saturdays. What's up? Coming back at you with a Big Ten and Pac-12
Welcome back.
reaction. As you're all probably aware, Big Ten, Pac-12 canceling their seasons, or at least postponing them until spring. ACC, SEC, Big 12 still on. What kind of impact is this going to have? Recruiting. Are kids going to want to come to the Pac-12, Big Ten? Because they don't seem committed to football right now. Which teams does it hurt the most? Ohio State, number 2 in the AP poll. They had a chance at a national championship this year. Possibly the best quarterback they've ever had in Justin Fields. A man whose name Will can never remember.
It's true.
Who's benefiting the most? I would argue it was Tennessee. Because they are having the best recruiting year they've ever had. And now they can do recruiting against a lot of these other teams that are looking at the exact same talent.
But I mean, if we're being honest, it seems like Tennessee is in the top recruiting list multiple times, and they just still suck.
This year it's been on another level.
6-6, I'll give them.
Maybe this year, but when they get these recruits in, they're going to be
7-5.
They're going to be contenders in the SEC.
No, this is a topic that I can get pretty heated on pretty fast. I think there's a lot of recruiting impact. I mean, if you look in the Big 12 and the Pac-12, I mean, you just take a full season off. You're giving the other 3 conferences a full season to showcase why recruits should come to their university. Meanwhile, the Big Ten and Pac-12 can't do anything about it. Not only that, But you're hurting a lot of potential NFL prospects. I mean, we look at Joe Burrow last year, and he even said this himself.
They're all getting eligibility back. You're not hurting anybody.
But they're not going to have this season to prove themselves.
You'll have next season.
Well, it's not the same season. I'm going
to push back on that one.
But next year, they're not going to be the same level of training that they are this year. They might have been working really hard, and they have the momentum going in this year. And now they got guys in the Big Ten got to sit a whole year. That's a whole year of training they got to maintain, and no live football. They're going to come back next season, and it's going to be what? 12, 20 months since they've last played an actual football game. It's going to take a while for them to get back into it. It's not going to be like they just start putting the pads on.
They're still practicing.
They're still practicing. There's a big difference between practice and games.
All those teams still get 12 hours.
There's a big difference between practice and training and the real thing. And I think if you give these athletes a whole year of just training, they're probably going to be in great shape. But it's just not the same thing as the real game situation. And I think there are some players, now some might come out and just be like better because of it, because they had a whole year of training and they're just going to be unrecognizable next year. But I think there are some players that had the hype coming into the season that could just fall off. I mean, they just might not have the same impact they had before, and it might hurt their draft stock a little bit.
I think anybody who was going to pop off will still pop off in the next season that they have. They are getting all their eligibility back. That's one of the few things that the NCAA has done right.
Not a lot of things NCAA does right.
Obviously, I find Ohio State to be impacted heavily, but there are a lot of different teams that got hit hard with this decision. Were there any teams that you identified that benefited or were severely undercut?
Yeah, I have one for both. You said, was your Ohio State your team that you think got hurt the most?
Yeah, I think Nebraska got hit hard with that too.
My team that I think got hurt the most, and I'm just going to keep talking about them, but I think this is legit. I think Minnesota is going to get hurt the most of Big Ten teams. The Pac-12. I mean, going into this year, they're pretty. I mean, I don't think they have a solid team to contend. Minnesota, I think, is the team most hurt because they just came off a 12-2 season. They aren't really legit contenders yet. No one recognizes them as that. They're kind of like UCF after their undefeated season. Like, they just proved it, but they haven't really proven it. Like, we need a couple years of that same success to really like validate what they're doing there. And Minnesota in the past couple of years, and we're seeing it with this recruiting class, it's getting higher in the rankings. The recruiting has gotten better. Recruiting might get hurt from this year, but they needed this season to prove what they were. And PJ Fleck needed this season to prove that Minnesota was a legit program. Returning a lot of starters, returning Tanner Morgan.
He did that last year.
But they went 12-2 and they won their bowl game against Auburn. But I think they needed this year. They needed another 2 to 3 loss, maybe 1 loss season, and to beat another elite team in a bowl game.
They can do that next year. They can do that next year with all their players back.
We're in the Big Ten.
You want to know?
We validate their success, but like guys in the SEC, they don't.
You want to know? You want to know who agrees with you?
Probably no one.
I think a lot of people in Minnesota agree with me.
Maybe in Minnesota. Around the rest of the country, I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who has Minnesota at the top of their most impacted board.
I didn't say I'm not trying to agree with people. I'm not trying to agree with people.
I don't think they're a top 2. I don't even think they're a top 2 most impacted team in their conference.
I would say Ohio State's probably pretty impacted too.
Ohio State.
I'm not gonna, do you want me to agree with you?
Ohio State's definitely. Yeah, I do want you to agree.
I'm not going to.
Ohio State's definitely in the top. I'm going to argue Nebraska second most impacted because you look at.
I disagree with that.
You look at a coach in Scott Frost.
I think that's pretty biased. Pretty biased take.
Yeah, I am a Nebraska fan, but I think I think this was a team that was greatly impacted by that decision. You look at a coach in Scott Frost. He's trying to build something in Nebraska. He's not had the success on field. He's been very successful on the recruiting trail. But you look at the roster, and you look at some of the recruits they're going after. They're guys that want to see wins. They're guys that want to see Scott Frost prove that he can coach in the Big Ten, and he needed wins this year.
I agree with that, but I think you can say about every team that has a new young coach or a new coach in the program that is trying to put it together. I think you can say that about pretty much anyone.
Well, you
right
certainly can't say that somebody who has an established coach with a 2-loss season already on his record was more impacted than a guy who's trying to prove himself.
But there's a lot of teams trying to prove themselves, like to be winning programs. But Minnesota is particularly special because they were one of the laughing stocks of the league for many, many years, and this is their first real taste of real success in actual contending for a national title.
Yeah, their stock's
never been higher, and now we're just going to not let them play a season.
Yeah, what if they went out there and laid an egg?
Well,
what if they went out there and they lost 8 games?
They're
getting a whole extra year of recruiting coming off of a 2-loss season in which they looked the most impressive that they ever have. They were a big beneficiary of canceling.
I disagree. With Tanner Morgan coming back, I think they would have been.
He's still coming back. He's still got that year.
With him coming back, I don't think they're going to have a bad season. I thought they were going to have a great season. You said,
but there's still the potential. You never know.
There's the potential for anything.
You never know what's going to happen.
You never know what's going to happen. I agree. So I don't know anything can happen. So I don't know what your point is.
They could have gone out there and lost 8 games, and their recruits started decommitting.
They could have went out there and went 13-1. I think that's more likely. Because they returned most of their starters.
I think it's
this year.
I think it's less likely actually. You look at flash in the pan teams, and they often don't repeat their success. I'll debate you next week if you give me time to research Minnesota, and I'll talk about why they're not they're a big beneficiary, why they're not so greatly impacted. I'm not prepared to have this conversation about Minnesota right now.
I think it's because you don't have enough.
I have plenty. I just need to do the research.
I think it's because you don't have enough.
No, we're putting this on the outline for next week.
That's not that.
A whole segment about Minnesota.
Okay.
I'm tearing you down. Moving on. Kevin Warren. Why is this guy in charge of the Big Ten? Why is this guy trying to tell us he cares about the student athletes in the Big Ten and their safety when his son is still playing at Mississippi State?
I don't think he has a fan in Big Ten country right now. There's not a lot to say about him.
I think he's got Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan. She's a big fan of his.
Of course she is. It's Michigan.
I think that's probably his only fan.
It's his only fan. Do I think he should be fired? I mean, that's kind of harsh.
He should be.
But I won't blame him too hard because he's reacted exactly like everyone else in college football and in
everyone
the NCAA.
Else? He didn't.
Not the players, but I meant the.
He didn't react like the ACC commissioner or the SEC commissioner or the Big 12 commissioner. Those guys. I'm
talking about a lot of talking heads like the Kirk Herbstreits, Paul Feinbaums, all the people that have supported this.
Do we want in the Big Ten? Do those teams want a commissioner who's scared of the media and is going to do certain things because he thinks that the media will applaud him?
I'm not defending him. You didn't let me finish.
Well, you said that.
I think he's reacting exactly like that. And I think that's stupid. You let me finish. The NCAA is a horrible organization. They absolutely do nothing wrong, right? And I don't know if these guys are just in the pockets filled by the NCAA or by the networks of ESPN. I don't know what's going on, but I thought it was pretty disgusting. You got guys like Kirk Herbstreit,
Kirk
Herbstreit, who are outside of the players. The College Game Day crew, they're the face of college football. Like when you think of college football, I think of the College Game Day crew. Yeah, the players are the face, but they're gone after 3 or 4 years. They've been here for a long time. When I think of college football fans and the experience in College Game Day, that's who I think of. And I wanted him to come out and support the players, the players that play and earn him money every year. I want him to be on their side, to be on Scott Frost's side, to be on Trevor Lawrence's side, who's still going to get to play. But when we saw a lot of players that were very outspoken about this, very good players, future NFL prospects, come out and say they wanted to play football. A lot of universities and programs like Nebraska come out and say they want to play football, and just to be absolutely stomped by the talking heads of college football that we thought were the biggest fans. that we thought that would be on their side, and it was just disappointing.
That was a pure character assassination attempt by the media for 24 hours on Nebraska.
Oh, that was horrible. I mean, it was disgusting.
Yes. You look at a team who is, and this is what I don't think that they understand. You look at a team in Nebraska, basically every team in the Big Ten, they're going through all the protocols correctly. They've been doing exactly what the Big Ten's been ordering them. They're testing their athletes. They're returning positive results, or they're getting good results back. Their players are not getting COVID. And then before they even get to the season, the Big Ten says we can't do it. Why were they working so hard to abide by these guidelines all of fall camp if you're not even going to let them try? And then to say, we don't want you to play, so you're not allowed to play even outside of our conference. If you're going to put these restrictions on a team, you got to at least let them try. And that's all that Nebraska said. They just said, we would like a chance to try and play. We would like to see how it goes. And then to go out and threaten them and say, you can do so, but we'll kick you out of the conference.
And then just to butcher them in the media like that happened for a whole week. I mean, it's like all they're trying to do is they're just trying to fight for the right to play football. I mean, why are we butchering the program? I mean, and then even worse is to not even restrict the rest of the conferences. I think it's just, I don't understand letting half the conferences not play. I think the NCAA needs to make a decision, not a conference by conference level, because then it just goes back to what we were talking about earlier, like who gets affected and who doesn't.
I think we can both agree that this whole scenario is just, it's been handled extremely poorly.
Like everything else the NCAA does.
Do you know what? There's been a singular cry from every football fan who's had their season ended. Every player almost who's had their season ended. And it's been this. This is unacceptable! It's unacceptable.
That's what everyone in America is saying right now.
That's what everyone is saying.
I can hear them from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
From the Pac-12. They're all screaming in harmony.
It's been probably one of the most disappointing months as a sports fan for me. And then we also talked about this earlier. Meanwhile, Nebraska getting butchered in the media, Ohio State taking a neutral stance on this in the first week, letting Nebraska get butchered, and then once Nebraska is dead in the side of the road, Ohio State comes up and is like, "Hey, hold up one second. We'd like to play football too." Yeah.
What if we
Nebraska
was
onto something there? Nebraska was
they were kind of right. Like, can we play football? Oh, well, you're Ohio State. You're elite. You're not 4-8 like Nebraska. We'll take you seriously. And now we're going to champion them.
I would just like to say to our listeners, we're not saying this as Nebraska fans. We're saying this as college football fans. You go on the college football Reddit, and there are fans defending Nebraska who are Oklahoma fans, who are Texas fans. They're like, hey, Nebraska bros, thank you for saying this, you know?
I think if you're a fan of college football and football in general, you should support Nebraska. I mean,
and I don't think we disagree when I say that if players start getting sick at an alarming rate, cancel the season then, but at least let them try.
Let them try.
I think you would find that players would be responsible and avoid situations in which they could get infected. And with consistent testing, which we saw in the Big Ten by all teams, you would avoid transmission during play.
I also just hate giving Ohio State more credit than what they're already getting.
Yeah, Nebraska deserves the lion's share of the credit on this whole play.
I'd even give Iowa. I'd give Iowa more credit than Ohio State because they were at least on our. They were fighting with us a little bit, but no.
Well,
we're just gonna champion Ohio State. Also, I had the SEC as my team that got. I think the SEC as a conference is going to benefit most. That was my team.
Well, yeah.
My body that I thought was going to benefit. The whole SEC in general, I think, is going to benefit the most from all this.
Already king in college football. Already where all the recruits are. Now those be able to.
I thought the Big Ten was the second. I think it was SEC Big Ten. Now the Big Ten's out. Now everyone in the country is going to watch SEC football on TV, and that's just what all the attention is going to be there. And now without the Big Ten and Ohio State, the only other competition for Alabama is Clemson. I mean, quite honestly, I don't think even in their own conference, they're just without LSU returning all their starters. I think it's just Alabama versus Clemson at this point because you have Ohio State out of the picture. It's basically SEC or nothing right now.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I think that if we're talking conferences, the ACC is going to benefit more from this because you look at a conference who has been Clemson and everybody else. Florida State, since Jameis, since Jimbo left, an embarrassment. Miami, are they back? Every year are they back? And then that question gets answered in week 3.
It's a big
no. Big no. I think you're going to see that those teams, given the chance to play, they're going to be able to showcase that they're moving in the right direction. And they're going to get a lot of those Florida kids that would normally look to move out of state. They're going to say, hey, I might as well just stay because we got something good going here. We have teams in conferences that are committed to football. So I think that Miami, Florida State, those are some teams that are going to really benefit. And then to have a brand like Notre Dame join you for a season, that's going to explode the popularity of the ACC, I think.
I agree. I think it's fair to say that every conference that's going to be playing football this fall is going to be better off than the teams that are not.
Depending on what the Pac-12 does, I think there's a chance that people might start finding some group of 5 conferences more entertaining to watch than the Pac-12. They have had a pretty poor on-field product. It's been Oregon and Utah, or it's really been Oregon and question mark, if we're being honest.
Washington's kind of been in there, but they're kind of falling off a little bit.
That was a lot of the Jake Browning era.
Yeah.
It's since Jake Browning left, they haven't really been anything special. So,
and USC is just gone right now. They're non-existent.
Yeah, that they need USC back to be.
I think right now the ACC as a conference is finding its way above the Pac-12 just because of Clemson's success and because of Lamar Jackson in Louisville. I think he shot the ACC stock up a lot.
I think the ACC has been. I think the Pac-12 has been the bottom of the Power 5 the last 5 years, and I think being the first to cancel your season is going to drastically impact their stock. I think they're going to end up falling way behind. They already have a nightmare of a network. You look at Under Armour. Under Armour dropped contracts with Cal, or is trying to drop contracts with Cal
and
UCLA.
Yeah.
Why are they dropping the Pac-12 teams first? Why are they dropping teams in LA and Berkeley? Why you would think Under Armour would look to get rid of some of its lesser teams first?
I don't know.
I think that just shows that the Pac-12 is not the product that people are buying stock in.
No.
Especially now that they're showing that they aren't as worried about football as they should be.
Bringing it back to Kevin Warren, when I said I thought he was like the rest of the execs. That's what I was referring to, and probably should be fired. I'm gonna rechange my stance because he's kind of just a puppet at this point. I think that's what he turned into.
All right. Well, I'm glad we agree on that. We are out of time on this topic. We'll be right back with a fantasy football primer. Sleepers, bus, who you need to pick. Got a couple positional player matchups. Catch us in 30 seconds.
What's up, Save Saturdays listeners? Will here with another big announcement. Airing each Sunday on Instagram, the Sunday Slices and Shanks video show will feature Ethan and I as we compete for golf supremacy. With a Bob toast on the line, each hole, every shot matters. Catch Sunday Slices and Shanks every Sunday at 12 p.m. Central Time, and always remember to save Saturdays.
What's up, Save Saturdays listeners? We're back for a crazy third segment, Fantasy Football Primer. Will and I both have a fantasy football draft coming up
10:30 tonight. 10:30 tonight.
I'm going to clean house on Will especially and the rest of that league.
Quick question.
What's up?
Who are you taking first?
I'm not telling you.
I already told you yesterday who I was taking.
Mahomes?
Or Lamar. An unprecedented pick to pick a quarterback in the first round, but
it's
I'm not. This will be later in the segment, so we're not gonna talk about it. Now.
All right,
We're not
all right,
gonna talk
all
about it now. We're not gonna talk about it. I apologize for bringing it up. I'm sorry.
sleepers. You guys heard me last episode. My big sleeper, Jonathan Taylor. I don't think he's a sleeper anymore, so I'm not going to use him again. I'd say
You just want to plug him real quick. You just want to get his name
Jonathan
out there.
Jonathan Taylor. You should draft him. Better than Saquon. Better than Zeke.
I'm just ready for my Bob Toast that I'm gonna get from the last bet you made.
Actually, it would be 10 Bob Toast
10 Bob Toast. I'm ready for it.
that I'm gonna get.
I don't know about that.
You know, now that you mentioned Bob Toast, I think I'm gonna get Canes once we're done here. Canes, excellent.
Sounds
Highly
good.
recommend.
I wouldn't mind some games. Sleepers. So you're going John Taylor or anything else?
No, Jonathan Taylor not a sleeper because he's a stud. He's a stud.
Oh my gosh.
All right, Jonathan Taylor's one of my studs.
Oh,
If he's available and you're picking late in the second round, early third round, Jonathan Taylor.
Third round.
10 confidence on that pick.
Third round on Jonathan Taylor.
Well, there might be some uneducated people out there who let him slide like that. But if you got him available, maybe even late, I'd take him late first round. Honestly, you might see me take him late first round.
Oh my god! Now you're just.
That's a 10. That's a 10 confidence for
Oh
me.
my
That's a
gosh.
10 confidence for me.
You know what?
I've had a lot of success drafting rookie running backs in fantasy.
You know
football.
what? I want you to pick Jonathan Taylor in the first round because it'll make me very confident that I'll beat you this year. I would enjoy. I think the rest of the league would like that too.
I mean, there's definitely better players
Definitely is
that can be available at that pick, more
established.
So if I have a chance at one of those players, I'll probably take them. But if I'm in a 14-team league picking 14th, Jonathan Taylor's sitting there.
I don't think
I'm making that pick, no questions asked.
I don't think it's even like
No
pick a
question,
rookie, no matter
question.
who it is, to pick a rookie in the first 5 rounds is like crazy in my mind.
Well, it's not crazy when it's Jonathan Taylor. For
My sleeper, like I said, that wasn't your sleeper.
Yeah,
So I'll let you go with your sleeper then. We're talking too much about Jonathan Taylor.
sleeper, AJ Dillon.
Why am I not surprised?
Man's got legs like tree chunks.
Does he have some
If
big
he's
legs?
not picked in the last round, just grab him because he's going to be going off for 10 carries.
He looks like a fullback standing out there.
And I'm honestly not.
Eddie Lacy 2.0.
Not Eddie Lacy 2.0.
Keep him away from the Chinese.
AJ Dillon probably doesn't even like Chinese.
You better hope not. Or else you're screwed.
Man doesn't even need to eat. He just photosynthesis. But
Doesn't need to work out. He
thing
just
with-
grows muscle in his sleep.
facts. AJ Dillon, that's a guy who might not get a lot of yards, but he's gonna get the goal line carries. He's gonna be getting those tutties. And
That's probably true.
any fantasy football league, touchdowns are king. So if you want a guy who's going to get you a cool 12 points every week if he scores 2 touchdowns, AJ Dillon.
I disagree.
I
I think he's going to get some touchdowns.
I would draft him round 15, 10 confidence. Round 10,
Round 15,
5
yeah,
confidence.
That's probably
5
I'd give you
confidence
that one.
round 10.
That's probably that Packers running back room is pretty loaded already. Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams. I just don't see him.
That's why I say you're not going to get the yards out of Dillon. You're going to if you want the yards for the Packers, go Aaron Jones. But if he's available late rounds and there's
if you're going to stick him in your bench and see if he progresses throughout the year and throw him in if he starts to pick it up, then I mean I could
I
just don't think he's going to be consistently there all the time.
I have a rule, actually. So if you can use this tonight, I have a rule as a Packer fan. I refuse to draft Packer players because I don't want to be doubly disappointed when they suck.
That's true.
So I completely avoid drafting Packers players.
That's true. My only exception to that rule was Gronk. I drafted him every time I could have, no matter what. Otherwise, I usually follow that rule.
So I'm not going to pick any Packers players tonight. But if you take Aaron Jones in the early rounds, which I would not do, but serious bust potential there. If you take Aaron Jones, I think you got to take AJ Dillon as a
I'd almost take
as a
Jamal
handcuff.
Williams as more of a sleeper. I think he's gonna have kind of an impressive year this year.
There were questions if he was going to even make the roster.
I think he's gonna be good. I like Jamal Williams.
I
just like Jamal Williams.
I mean, I like him, but I like AJ Dillon as a power back and a receiver better. And so I think AJ Dillon's going to seriously cut into Williams' carries.
I think in the red zone, yeah.
Who's your sleeper?
My sleeper, I went defense for my sleeper. And I went with the Bucks defense. And here's why. the Bucks defense last year was not very good at all. But when you look at their stats last year, they were 10th in scoring defense, 5th in takeaways with 28 takeaways, 7th in sacks, and they had the sack leader, Shaquille Barrett, coming back for them this year. He had 19.5 sacks. They got Sue in the middle this year, and we saw what Sue did in L.A. for the Rams. His stats weren't great, but he opened up a lot of space and put a lot of one-on-one coverage for Aaron Donald, and that was one of his best years, is when he had Sue in the interior. I think with Shaquille Barrett and Sue on the defensive line, you're going to see a lot of sacks, fumbles, a lot of playmakers. The secondary for the Bucks, it's kind of iffy right now, but if they can just play a little bit better than what they did last year, I think the Bucks have potential to be in your starting lineup and score very well for you. I'm not saying they're the best fantasy defense, but I mean I would probably draft them as my second defense and see how they do. I think that's my sleeper.
So as a defensive sleeper, if you're picking a defense as a sleeper, how many spots do you think they would have to improve to have been considered a sleeper? Like 5? Would they have to move up 5 spots in the defensive fantasy points ranking? Because they were already the 7th best fantasy defense last year.
They were the 7th best?
Yeah. I mean, I added them later in the segment because they were so good last year. When we're picking between top defenses later,
but when you look at defense,
I chose them as one of them.
But in fantasy, when you look at defense, once you get out of the top 5, I mean, it's really kind of defense doesn't really do much for you. I mean, even the top 2 or 3, they're kind of just there. The only exception is last year I had the Patriots defense. That did win me quite a few games.
Well, they were the number one.
They were the number one. I mean, but usually, even if you have like a top defense like that, they still don't really produce you a lot of yards. Like you'd still rather take a wide receiver 3 would get you more yards than some defenses would.
It's not like they're Tony. It's not like they're Tony Snell out there just running.
I mean, some of
them
are.
It's a highly productive defense.
Defense is sketchy. There's some defenses that will lose you points some weeks. I mean,
not the Bucks.
Once you get out of the top 5 defenses, they're kind of just a break-even stat to see if you can get like 3 or 4 or 5 points here and there, just to kind of pad your stats a little bit, and just hope you don't go negative. That's what half teams. You just hope that your defense like doesn't give you negative points. So I mean, I think the Bucks are gonna. They were 7 last year. I think they'll be in the top 5 this year for sure. Because I think now with Tom Brady, and I think that offense being a lot better, and I think Tom Brady's not going to throw however many picks Winston threw last year, and that's 30. That's going to alleviate that defense a lot. They're not going to be on the field as much. You're going to have Tom Brady, who's an excellent game manager. I think the best game manager, best situational football player in the league.
I mean, you can be.
I think he's going to keep the defense off the field.
Okay, game manager isn't an insult. Tom Brady is an exceptional game manager, but he's not only a game manager.
I'm going to say time manager. How's time manager?
Like
I think
Eli
he's
Manning,
an excellent time manager.
It's an insult to Eli Manning because that's all he was. He was only a game manager, and a lot of quarterbacks are only game managers. But Tom Brady is a game manager, but he's also a defense manipulator.
I think the real look of a great quarterback is if they can turn on game manager.
Why are we talking about Tom Brady? You're talking about defense. Go back to the defense.
It relates into it.
Save it for the TB12.
When it comes back to defense, I think they're gonna be helped a lot by the Bucks' improved offense and Tom Brady's leadership. I think Tom Brady's leadership leaks into the defense a little bit. He's a team player. I think that's going to help the defense a lot, and his time management is excellent. So they're not going to spend so much time on the field. So they're as a defense outside of fantasy, I think they're going to improve a lot just for having Tom Brady on the field. But I think they're also going to be much better because of Sue, their pass rush. I think they get a lot of turnovers. So I mean, it's going to be a fun defense to watch, and I would definitely take him as my first defense. I probably will. I don't think anyone else will.
I don't disagree with you. I just don't think they're a sleeper. Moving on.
You think they're already elite?
I already mentioned who my bust is. My bust is Aaron Jones. I think he's a good running back. I just don't think he's going to score as many touchdowns as last year. Defenses are going to be looking at him. And I also think A.J. Dillon, he's going to get a lot of goal line carries. And so he's going to be taking away some of the touchdowns. So this is not a disrespect to Aaron Jones. I think it's just how the cookie's going to crumble for him.
Fantasy's different than the regular season. I mean, he's going to be a good running back no matter what. It's just not fantasy-wise, he's not.
Yeah. Yep. His fantasy stats are going to go down. So,
but he's still going to be a good running back. I mean, that's not. You're not saying he's bad, but
I don't think I'd make him. I don't think I'd make him my first. I don't think he's a top 10 pick.
I definitely agree with that for sure. Yeah.
So if you're picking him early, that's serious bust potential. Who's your bust?
My bust is Todd Gurley. This is a guy I drafted last year. Wildly disappointed. Last 2 seasons battling with injury.
So you think he's going to get worse than his worst season?
I think he's going to get worse. I think what we've seen from Todd Gurley is the best. I think he's going to have a very bad career in Atlanta, and he's just going to be done. I think he's hit his peak. I don't even think he's a starting running back anymore. I think they can find better. Last year,
But look
he
at
only
that.
had 857 yards. He had 12 touchdowns just because he's a big back, and he was kind of worked in as a community back. And the Rams were a decent run team. I don't think the Falcons are a good run team, and they've proven that. Devontae Williams, Freeman, wildly unsuccessful after he had a few years of success. They have proven that their only way to win is through Matt Ryan under Dan Quinn.
Same thing with the Falcons. Gurley they have no choice but to make Gurley successful. Their backup running back is Ito Smith. That's an undrafted free agent.
I just don't think their running game is going to be good. I think
Even
they
if their
have to
running
make
game
him
isn't
good. I don't
Gurley's-
think their running game is going to be good.
I think Gurley could be a satisfactory flex.
It's an offense that lives on the air, and that's their only year that they were successful is when they went to the Super Bowl, and that was when Matt Ryan just went off and won MVP. I mean, if Matt Ryan's not on, they're a bad football team.
Okay, answer this. Todd Gurley, top 32 fantasy running back.
I mean, yeah, 32 is a big number.
Top 25.
Maybe. No, not 25.
Not top 25?
I think
I'll
he can
put
find
a bob that he's top 25.
At the end of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
I'm only saying that because I had him last year, and I was trying to release him. I was trying to get rid of him. I had him on my bench. I mean, he was absolutely useless. I mean, he's scoring like 5 points a game.
Just to clarify to you, if he finishes 25th or higher, he only needs to be better than 7 other starting running backs.
Yeah.
I get about those.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't think he'll be a top 25 back in
All right.
fantasy.
Lock-
Also, real quick, I did have 2 more sleepers. CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy.
You don't draft rookies. You said so earlier.
They're sleepers. They're sleepers.
That's
I said
BS.
I didn't say early. I think if you have a late pick, I think both those guys are gonna have a good year.
That's BS. Locks. If they're there, who do you have to take? They're going to be successful.
I mean, we know. We know who the locks are.
Yeah, but who? If you have multiple of those players available, if you're picking number 1, who's your lock? You have.
If I'm picking number 1,
you have 100% confidence that they are going to be number 1 worthy.
I'm taking Mahomes. And if you want a different answer, a different quarterback, I would take Lamar. I think those two are both for sure locks. They're going to be amazing. Running backs, Christian McCaffrey, you kind of have to.
Christian,
it's the number 1.
CMC is my lock.
And that's a lot of people's locks.
I think that, you look at a Teddy Bridgewater, not really a dynamic quarterback. He's not gonna be bad.
I imagine he'll do a lot of dumping off to McCaffrey. Running with McCaffrey and throwing to him.
He's gonna be better than Kyle Allen, but just that security blanket that Christian McCaffrey has as a receiver probably could be a starting slot receiver in the NFL.
Has he had a major injury yet, McCaffrey?
CMC?
Yeah.
No.
See, that's what worries me because usually running backs, once they get a few years into their career, at some point the injury's coming. I just worry that at some point McCaffrey's been so good past 2 years. I mean, at some point he's got to have some kind of injury.
Okay, who's your stud?
My stud?
Who's your stud? CMC?
Mahomes. I'm taking Mahomes.
Mahomes. Okay.
I think that's the lock. I mean, and if you're asking when I think of who's my stud, like if I have the number 1 pick, of anyone, I think Mahomes is the best player in fantasy to take. I mean, the guy just puts up video game numbers. I mean, McCaffrey's probably number 2, and then Lamar's number 3.
Well,
I mean, he's there.
You're suspiciously high on quarterbacks right now.
I'm high on Mahomes and Lamar. Everyone else, I mean, usually in fantasy football, I never take a quarterback. I usually go running back, 2 wide receivers, quarterback.
I'll give you this word of advice. I drafted Lamar in the 15th round last year, started him every week. I still got dead last.
I had Lamar. I picked up Lamar in free agency after week 1. I got second place, went to the championship. So I think the rest of your team just sucked.
Clearly,
I think the rest of your team just sucked.
But we're talking about a guy who can carry your team, and clearly it's not Lamar. I have an example. You want to talk about a guy who can carry your team?
Jonathan Taylor. Oh, my gosh.
I
promise I didn't know he was going to say that,
He's
guys.
the next
I had no
big
idea he was going to say
thing.
that.
I already said it. I already said he was my stud. Jonathan Taylor, lock it in. If he drops past the second round, you need to snatch that man. He's that dude.
That is way too early.
How many leagues are you in?
A rookie.
How many leagues are you in?
1. Just 1.
Same here. How early are you looking to?
I mean, if you get in more than 1, I just don't pay attention. And so, I mean, I don't like being more than 2. 2 is my max.
All right.
Anything else, I'm not paying attention.
Challenge. You got to answer all these questions in the next 40 seconds. How early are you looking to take a quarterback this season? 14-team league. Go. Round 1, 2, 3, 4.
In a 14-team league?
Yeah.
See, the league, we're not in a 14-team league, but if I were in a 14-team league, what pick do I have?
14.
14. It was a quarterback?
Yeah. How early are you looking?
I'm gonna say it again. If Mahomes or Lamar are available, I'm taking either one of them. If
So
Mahomes is available, in round one.
Okay.
But
well, you have 10 seconds left. So
Okay, but
Lamar or Mahomes?
Mahomes,
Henry Cook,
Henry,
Thomas Jones,
Thomas,
Ertz, Kelsey Kittle,
Kelsey,
Buccaneers, Ravens.
Bucks,
Best funny team name you've seen?
Gronky Kong.
Gronky Kong.
That's my team name.
In our league.
Yeah.
I'm the Raising Cane's Bob Toasts.
Oh, I like that. It's tasteful.
All right. We're at the end of the show here. And
you know what time that is.
It's Will's time to shine.
Dun, 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 dun. It's the TB 12 seconds, guys. This the segment you guys were all waiting for.
You know what? I think for the next show, we're going to hook you up with a little theme music for that.
I think we should too. Some superhero music. Some goat music. I think we should just get a goat, like a goat, just like making a goat noise.
For now, we'll throw a little bit of elevator music behind you.
Dun, dun, dun. TB 12 seconds with Will. All right, guys, the TB 12 seconds. I didn't know this until I looked this up. Tom Brady went to the same high school as Barry Bonds and Lynn Swann in San Mateo. He graduated in 1995. So now we know why he's a stud.
I actually know a kid who went to San Mateo High School.
Really?
Yeah.
Is his name Tom Brady, Barry Bonds, or Lynn Swann?
It is not.
Oh,
he's
that's
also a sports media major at UNL.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Apparently, it's a mad flex for that high school, though.
They have Tom Brady.
They had Tom Brady.
I'd be flexing too.
I mean,
I also would be.
Can you?
I mean, and
can
Barry
you blame
Bonds.
him?
But it's is it
second
a blemish?
Second best quarterback of all time.
Is it a
high school.
blemish? Is it a blemish on the record that they have Barry Bonds? Is that even that out? Have Tom Brady and then Barry
Let's
Bonds?
talk about the MLB player with the biggest head, Barry Bonds. That thing just kept getting bigger. Don't do drugs, kids. And as always,
Steroids make your brains bigger.
Remember to
Safe Saturdays, guys.
These my dollars make it hurt.